Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your time and your viewership. It means a lot to me. And in today's episode, we're going to be doing a house overview and I'm going to be giving you my quick thoughts on 6 fragrances by the brand Veronique Gabai. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin with my house overview of 6 fragrances by the brand Veronique Gabai, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like videos like these, house overviews, top 10 videos, fragrance reviews, unboxings, stuff like that, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. This way, whenever I do put out these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads. So here we have 6 fragrances by the brand Veronique Gabai. Veronique Gabai is the owner of the company and of course the creative director. And she was inspired by her time living in France. So she was actually born in France and all of these are inspired by the Azure coast. And so we have a number of fragrances, one of which that I've reviewed, and I'm going to leave the annotation for it up here if you are interested in hearing my detailed thoughts on it. But this one is called Cap d'Antibes, and it's this beautiful, slightly spicy rose, herbal, aromatic, slightly atmospheric, woodsy, resinous, and citrusy type of a fragrance. It's very complex, and it doesn't actually list rose in the note breakdown, but I am picking up on a little bit of rose, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later on. But before I begin sharing my thoughts on any of these fragrances, I do want to mention that if you are interested in picking up any of these fragrances or at the very least sampling them, you may do so at maxaroma.com. I trust Max Aroma with all of my fragrance purchases. I'm going to leave a link down below to where you can find them. And they have a lot of really hard to find designer and niche fragrances for really, really good discounts and really good prices. And I believe they carry every fragrance from the brand, if I'm not mistaken. They certainly have the ones that are mentioned in this video. And so Cap d'Antibes, could it be my favorite? I'm going to hold off and I'll mention that a little bit later on in the video. But also for the first 25 people who do make a full bottle purchase from Max Aroma, you will receive a free gift with purchase. All of the information is going to be down below. So let's go ahead and start off with these 2. These are their 2 booster fragrances. And what that means is that you can use these fragrances to layer and to enhance the longevity of some of their other offerings. Now, I don't know if the brand specifically says that, but I know that that works. I know that you can sort of use these as an underbody, if you will, and that allows the fragrances to last a little bit longer, not necessarily project better, but it will add a few hours of longevity to your fragrance, especially this one. This one is called Booster Eau de la Nuit. This one has a lot of base notes. It's very resinous, ambery, a little musky and woodsy as well. But let's do these in order. And you can tell these are boosters because of the cap. So the cap for this one is white as opposed to the regular bottles, which are all gold, and the cap for this one is black, if you can tell. So the first one is called Booster Eau Du Jour, and this is an explosion of citrus fruits. This is so good. This is so bright, so refreshing. Now, I looked up the note breakdown and it says woodsy notes and citrus notes. If I'm being honest, I get a lot of neroli. It reminds me a little bit of Eau de New York by Bond No. 9. I'm also getting something in here that gives me like 4711 vibes. But I'm also sensing that there could be a little bit of lemon and perhaps even petitgrain, which is a close cousin of neroli, often referred to as the poor man's neroli. And this one is really bright and refreshing, and that citrus is just so lively and so effervescent. And I think that this would be a perfect fragrance to layer with another one. And I've actually tried this layering combination before, and it was absolutely incredible. Vert Desir. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but very citrusy, very bright, very effervescent. A great fragrance to actually spray on top of whatever other fragrance you're wearing at the moment, especially if you feel like the fragrance that you're wearing is a little bit on the darker side, you just want to brighten it up a little bit. I think Booster Eau Du Jour would be a fantastic fragrance to wear, and this is also parfum strength. And so don't think that just because it's a booster and it's a fragrance that is intended to be layered with something else. And because it's a little bit on the linear side, that it's going to be weaker in concentration. No, these are still parfum strength. So very strong, very long lasting and enduring. Although I will have to admit, this one is a little bit longer lasting than the first one because this is a citrus driven composition. And this one, Booster Eau de la Nuit, is more in the vein of like woods, amber, maybe a little bit of earthiness in the base as well. I don't know if that's like a patchouli or moss or pine resin thing going on in here. But to be honest with you, when I smell it, I am reminded of agarwood. Now, it says woodsy notes in the note breakdown, so I'm not entirely sure if it is agarwood, but I'm smelling agarwood. There is an oudi quality about it that is very exotic smelling, very dark, very mysterious. And I should also mention that Veronique Gabai, in really guiding the direction of these perfumes, she was inspired by her time living in France and all the trips that she's taken and the people she's met and the, locations that she's visited. And I think it's a really beautiful story that is being told through these perfumes. But this is very warm and ambery, resinous, oudi. This is a great fragrance to layer with another fragrance called Sexy Garrigue, and I'm gonna get into that in a little bit. Now, the first of the true perfumes, not the boosters, is going to be called Noire De Mai and Rose. You get a lot of rose from this one. A rose without the fruity component. I know a lot of times when we think of these floral ingredients, we think of fruity florals. There's nothing fruity about this one. It's a very bright and refreshing type of a rose fragrance. I can also see this one layering really well with one of these first two. And the rose that's in here is very subdued, but it's also very sensual, very romantic. It's not too assuming, and it's a very easy to pull off rose. I also find it to be very gender neutral as well. I can see how it's compounded with some fresh sort of herbal qualities, kind of bringing it in slightly green territory, but it's still all about the rose in this fragrance. And so if you're looking for a very natural and organic smelling rose fragrance that really puts the rose on the pedestal, I think you're going to enjoy this one, Noire De Mai. The next one is called Sexy Garrigue. And this one, it's a very dark and resinous fragrance. Not too dark, it's not overly daring or overly complex, but it is very resolute and it's a little bit on the heavy side as well. So this one gives you the pine resin. This is earthy. This reminds me of the winter time. It's such a beautiful perfume. And I think it's fragrances like these that really characterize and symbolize the diversity in these creations, because when you think of the first one, the Booster Eau Du Jour, it's very bright and citrusy, neroli, lemon, petitgrain, and then you move on to something like Sexy Garrigue, and it's very resinous and warm and earthy and almost like incensey. I know there's labdanum being used in here because I can smell it right away. And the labdanum in here is definitely on the sweeter side, which is a quality that labdanum is known for, as opposed to perhaps some other resins like galbanum, which is very green, and benzoin, which can be a little bit smoky with a vanillic overtone, but a lot of people say it smells medicinal as well. This one is certainly on the sweeter side, thus lending this fragrance a bit of a sweeter amber accord, which I think is really delectable. Oh, such an awesome fragrance. If you are a fan of fragrances like Amber Absolute by Tom Ford or even Vert Desir by Tom Ford, almost imagine like a marriage of those two fragrances, but again, not overly strong, not overly domineering, but something that's a little bit more quiet and tame and subdued, something that knows its power, but it's able to control its power very well. Sexy Garrigue is an awesome fragrance. I'm really enjoying this one. And this is probably the one fragrance that I would certainly recommend for this time of the year as well. I would recommend this one over some of the other fragrances just because of the season. And of course, as we enter the warmer months, I would 100% recommend Vert Desir. Of course, the two rose offerings are fantastic for the springtime because, you think of the spring, you think of flowers in bloom. But let's talk about Vert Desir. So this has one of my favorite notes in it ever, and that is the note of mint. And for me, I much prefer spearmint to peppermint. And the reason I say that is because I used to work at this one hardware store from 2008 to 2012, and we always had peppermint candies on the counter for the customers. And so, the clients would come in, they would purchase their paint and their hardware supplies, and they would often take a few peppermint candies, and I used to have these peppermint candies like all the time. And every time I think of peppermint, I just think of like candy and something kind of on the synthetic side. I hate to put it like that, but spearmint reminds me of the mint that I grow in my very own backyard. And it also reminds me of mojitos. So that kind of puts me in the mindset of summer, even though I don't really consume mojitos, but it does put me in the mindset of summer. And you have the herbal quality in this one. There's also a citrusy component that reminds me a little bit of a Christian Dior fragrance called Eau Svelte, which I think is discontinued. You can't find it anymore, but I still have a bottle of it. And my mother used to wear it all the time as I was growing up. And it reminds me of a mintier version of that. Now, if you layer Vert Desir with Booster Eau Du Jour, it's like the most amazing mojito fragrance because you have the citrus, the lemon, you have the mint, and the herbal qualities from Vert Desir. And it's such an amazing combination that I've actually tried before twice. And both times it felt like my nose was really enjoying the totality of the fragrances. And so it's not like one of them was overwhelming the other. Use an even ratio if you are going to do that. I would probably do like 3 sprays of each because they are on the lighter side. So you can be a little bit more liberal with the sprayer, but 3 sprays of Vert Desir, 3 sprays of Booster Eau Du Jour, and it was an amazing combination. And the last one, of course, is a fragrance that I've reviewed already, and this one is called Cap d'Antibes. This is such a beautiful rose fragrance, and rose is not listed in the note breakdown, but I'm getting rose. And the rose lies in direct contrast to Noire De Mai, because in Noire De Mai, it's a little bit lighter and more atmospheric, but in Cap d'Antibes, it's a bit on the darker side. There are some woodsy nuances in here. There's a verdant undertone. There's a resinous tonality about it as well. And there's a touch of spice. And the reason I mention that is because I'm actually, in my head at least, I'm connecting it to Rose 31 by Le Labo. So this almost seems like a much more quiet version of Rose 31 where, in Rose 31, you have the cumin, you have the spicy ingredients, and they're really coming out. And truth be told, the cumin and the spices in Rose 31 are a turnoff to a lot of people. And so if you've always appreciated that rosy, sensual quality from Rose 31, but you want something sans spice, I think you should definitely check out Cap d'Antibes. It's a really wonderful, exotic smelling rose fragrance, very mysterious. And the one thing that I love about all of these fragrances is that they all sort of give off this sense of being on vacation. I don't know what it is. I know certainly for the mint and the citrus and the rose, I mean, these remind me of something that I would wear when I'm going on holiday or on a really nice trip with my family. The only one that I would say deviates a little bit from that vacation feel is Sexy Garrigue, just because it is so dark, and of course Booster Eau de la Nuit with that agarwood. But you can imagine a vacation to the Middle East, or maybe to, a climate where it's not nearly as hot or as sunny as, or I should say as vacation-esque as maybe the Caribbean or the Mediterranean or something like that. But all in all, these are all incredible fragrances. Veronique Gabai is a house that you absolutely must get your nose on. You must sample these fragrances because I think they possess quality through and through. And I'm really fortunate to have the opportunity to own these in my collection. And so I want to conclude by saying thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate your viewership and your time. It means a lot to me. And once again, if you are interested in checking out any of these fragrances, even sampling them, you may do so at maxaroma.com. Once again, all of the information is going to be down below. And the first 25 people to purchase a full bottle of any fragrance from the brand will receive a gift with purchase. Once again, the information is going to be down below in the description box. Thank you again so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you took something of value from this video, if this video was helpful in any way and you're not subscribed to this channel, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. It would mean so much to me. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. Thanks again for watching. Love you all, and we'll see you soon. Bye.